In Haiti, the judiciary ordered the arrest of Martine Moise, the widow of President Jovenel Moise, who is linked to his assassination in 2021. In Palestine, the genocidal Israeli operation against Gaza enters its 117th day, as authorities registered more than 27,000 dead to date. And in Russia, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov described BRICS as a prototype of the multipolar world. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Haitian judiciary has ordered the arrest of Martine Moise, the widow of President Jovenel Moise, who is linked to his assassination in 2021. The judge, Walter Voltaire, ordered her appearance to testify as part of the investigation for the assassination. The acts for which the case against the former First Lady is being opened are related to the crimes of attempted murder, association to commit crime, armed robbery, among others. The order was made public after Judge Voltaire ended his term. Martine Moise could still be based in the United States, although her current residence is not certain. On the day the president was assassinated, she was accompanying him and was wounded in the assault. Violence continues to plague Haiti. According to a UN report released on Tuesday, homicide rates in the country more than double as gangs attempt to expand their territorial control across the Caribbean nation. According to the report of the Secretary General of the UN Security Council and the UN Integrated Office in Haiti, the number of reported homicides increased by 119.4% since 2022. According to the document, in 2023, there were 4,789 homicide victims, including 465 women, 93 boys, and 48 girls, compared to 2,183 victims reported in 2022. On the other hand, the UN data shows that in 2023 alone, 8,081 people were victims of gang violence in Haiti, including death, injuries, or kidnappings.
We Haitians are fearless people who feel the support of our African ancestors, even though the U.S. imperialists dumped their worst food and garbage on us and put guns into Haiti, doing everything to eliminate us. We are still here. We are going to keep fighting, no matter what. We will win because we are the children of the Salins, Bookman and Capo Lamo. We do not fear death. Guinea and the ancestors are always with us. The exploiters have been trying to kill us off. For how long? We Haitians do not die. We are strong like the Palestinians. Jusqu'au onward toward victory always. We won't give up. This is the spirit of Wakale.
The President of the National Assembly of Venezuela, Jorge Rodriguez, rejected the interference of the United States government in the internal affairs of the country. During the extraordinary session of the Venezuelan parliament, Rodriguez denounced Washington's declarations and the operations of its unauthorized embassy operating from Colombia. The high official reiterated that no state can get involved in the internal affairs of another country. Likewise, the President of the National Assembly ratified that the decision of the Political Administrative Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice must be respected by the Venezuelan extreme right wing, as well as the agreement signed in Barbados with a sector of the opposition.
Because the sovereign decision taken by the Political Administrative Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice to activate a mechanism designed within the framework of the Barbados Agreement, which was drafted by the opposition delegation of the Unitary Platform, and which expressly states that the decision of that political administrative chamber must be respected whatever it may be. Because if the only acceptable decision were the one the oligarchy and the extreme right wanted, then what do we need a court for? The courts exist since they were invented to settle an issue, either one or the other option. That decision, taken last Friday, will still remain the same on April the 17th, April the 18th, April the 19th, the day of our Declaration of Independence,
el 17 de abril, el 18 de abril,
And then every day of 2024 and 2025, and so on until the end of history. Because it is res judicata. The court has already ruled, and there is no threat of anybody changing that ruling. Save yourself the effort.
In Venezuela, the authorities received in Caracas the Minister of Energy and Resources of Turkey, Alparslan Bayraktar. The visit will serve to strengthen bilateral cooperation and broaden alliances. The visit of the Turkish minister and his meeting with the representative of the Venezuelan government takes place in the context of an intensification of U.S. hostilities towards Venezuela. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez received the Turkish minister at the Ministry of Economy and Finance in Caracas to discuss opportunities for expanding energy cooperation. For his part, the Venezuelan Minister of Petroleum and President of the State-Owned Petróleos de Venezuela, S.A., PDVSA, Rafael Tellechea, also spoke with his Turkish counterpart about the details of the agreements in force and opportunities for new investments. In Argentina, the National Chamber of Labor Appeals declared the unconstitutionality of the labor reform the government of Javier Milei seeks to impose through the decree of necessity and urgency. By means of a ruling, the workers indicated the constitutional invalidity of the decree, since the executive does not have the power to use legislative provisions. In turn, the officials recalled that the admission of the exercise of the legislative powers by the executive is only made under exceptional conditions and as long as the norm does not regulate criminal, tax, or electoral matters. The judges also emphasized that the reform may affect citizens due to business inequality and rights of a food nature. The Argentinian government announced the implementation of a $28.7 million cut by 2024 in the Ministry of Human Capital Expenses, covering the areas of health, education, labor, and social development. The state will carry out a resources optimization plan divided in two stages. The first one includes a cost reduction of $9.4 million with the cancellation of 758 contracts, and the second phase will continue the cuts in consumption goods and services for $19.2 million in order to optimize hiring and diverse purchases. The National Statistics Institute of Chile registered during the last quarter of 2023 an unemployment rate of 8.6%. The entity indicated that in the metropolitan region of Chile alone, unemployment reached 9.4%. According to the Institute's data, the country's labor force is about 10,077,000 people, of which 9,223,000 are employed and about 2,500,000 are in the informal market. According to the figures, women were more affected by informality at 29.2%. 26.2%. This recalling that those who work in informality lack a labor contract, irregular working hours, and obtain low incomes. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. On Wednesday, the genocidal operation carried out by Israel against the population in Gaza reached 117 days. In this regard, in the last 12 hours, the health authorities confirmed that the death toll exceeded 27,000 dead, with more than 70% of them women and children. In the meantime, local authorities report that the Israeli occupation army in the last hours bombarded the city of Han Yunis, Al-Darash, and Habalia. In this way, the Ministry of Health assures that drones continue to target family residences full of civilians and refugee camps full of wounded and survivors. It should be noted that the official death toll does not include the bodies that remain under the rubble. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged 35 donor countries to restore and maintain funding to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees known as UNRWA. In an emergency meeting convened behind closed doors, Guterres described the Israeli accusations against 12 employees of the agencies as horrible and announced the launching of an investigation. In this sense, the UN reiterated that no other organization has the infrastructure to carry out this humanitarian task in Gaza. On the other hand, Riyad Mansour, the Palestinian ambassador to the UN, added that they called on all countries to strengthen support for Gaza and recalled that 153 members of UNRWA had been killed during the conflict in Gaza. In Palestine, at least 11 civilians were killed and others were injured in an Israeli shelling targeting a house in Deir al-Balah in the central Gaza Strip. Israeli warplanes also bombed a house in the Bureij refugee camp in central Gaza, resulting in the wounding of several people. The occupation shelling also targeted a group of citizens east of the Al-Bureij refugee camp, causing injuries to at least 3 people. According to sources, the occupation launched airstrikes on the Nuseirat refugee camp, the northern parts of the town of Beit Lahaya, and the eastern parts of Khan Yunis in central, northern, and southern Gaza, respectively. Spokesman for the World Health Organization said Tuesday that the food and water situation in Gaza is extremely serious, with regular food supplies being cut for more than 100 days.
Well, the food and water situation is extremely bad. Food has been cut off. Regular food supply has been cut off Gaza since more than 100 days. The population is really at the border of famine, as was discussed multiple times already, and it's definitely not getting better. It's getting worse by the day. We had a convoy just this morning trying to reach Al-Nasser hospital with patients, healthcare staff, everybody there needing food, but the very needy population already before basically took the supplies, as we can call it. This was a self-distribution of supplies, which only shows how dire the needs are.
In China, the government classified the Middle East situation as highly complex and sensitive and urged restraint of parties involved after President Joe Biden said the U.S. shall respond to the overnight drone strike that killed 3 U.S. troops and injured dozens in northeast Jordan. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said at a daily briefing, when asked about the incident, that countries concerned should avoid being caught in a vicious cycle of retaliation and prevent further escalation of tensions in the region. On Sunday, U.S. President Joe Biden blamed militias for the first U.S. fatalities after months of strikes by such groups against U.S. forces across the Middle East. Since the war in Gaza began on October 7th, militias have struck U.S. military installations in Iraq more than 60 times and in Syria more than 90 times with a mix of drones, rockets, mortars, and ballistic missiles.
The current situation in the Middle East is highly complex and sensitive, and we hope that all parties concerned will exercise calm and restraint, strengthen dialogue and communication, avoid being caught in vicious cycle of retaliation, and prevent further escalation of tensions in the region.
The United States Department of Defense updated the number of people injured in the attack on its military base in Jordan to more than 40. The drone attack on the Tower 22 base early Sunday morning, approximately 350 United States Army and Air Force personnel are deployed there. In the attack claimed by the Iraqi resistance, 3 soldiers were killed, and unidirectional unmanned aerial system hit their housing units without being detected by their means. 8 of the already 40 wounded had to be evacuated, one of them in serious conditions. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. France's National Assembly overwhelmingly approved on Tuesday a bill meant to enshrine a woman's right to an abortion in the French Constitution. The bill was voted by the lower house of Parliament by 493 votes in favor and 30 against, and constitutes the first key step in a legislative process that now requires a vote in the Senate. Abortion in France was decriminalized under the 1975 law, but there is nothing in the Constitution that would guarantee it. The measure had been promised by President Emmanuel Macron following a rollback of abortion rights in the United States. A constitutional amendment must pass both chambers of Parliament and then be approved either in a referendum or by a 3/5 majority of a joint session of Parliament. Macron's government is aiming for the second method, though the level of support in the Senate is less certain than in the National Assembly. Local media in Spain highlight that the amnesty law was not approved on Tuesday in the Spanish Congress after the Together for Catalonia party voted against it after failing to reach an agreement with the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party on how to include terrorism crimes in the text. In total, the law promoted by the president of the Spanish government, Pedro Sánchez, received 171 votes in favor, 179 against, and 0 abstentions. In this way, the government announced the return of the law to the Justice Commission, and on the other hand, the Spanish Congress will continue negotiating the draft bill of amnesty to the Catalan independentists. In this sense, the party Together for Catalonia considers that the law, as it is written, does not cover all those accused in the sovereignty process. On Wednesday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov described BRICS as the prototype of the multipolar world, addressing the first meeting of Sherpas, as the leaders of the powerful alliance are called, and non-Sherpas. The head of Russian diplomacy also described the accession of new members as a strengthening of the partnership and the consolidation of a new global stance. This Wednesday, Egypt, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Ethiopia participated for the first time in a meeting of this format. In such a conclave, the Russian foreign minister also denounced that the US dollar is the political weapon used by the West to solve political issues. In Zimbabwe, opposition politician Job Sikhala will be released after more than a year and a half in prison. This was reported on Tuesday by his lawyers after a Harare court imposed a suspended sentence on him. Sikhala, 51 years old, an outspoken and popular critic of the government, was one of the most prominent figures arrested in recent years in what right groups have described as a crackdown on dissent in the southern African country. Sikhala was found guilty of inciting public violence last week at the end of a year-long trial that supporters say was politically motivated. Another opposition MP, Godfrey Sithole, was also found guilty of the same charges. Sikhala and Sithole were convicted of inciting their supporters to avenge the death of their political ally, Morebelezin Ali, who was killed by a ruling party activist in May 2022.
Job Sikhala has been given a 2-year prison term, wholly suspended for a period of 5 years, on condition that he does not commit a crime involving incitement to commit public violence. He is now a free man. This is the only case that has been keeping him in custody, so he is going to come out. We're got instruction to take the matter up to the High Court on appeal. What we want is an acquittal, not a conviction with a lighter sentence. No, we disagree with that.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUREnglish.net. Also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.